Hi everyone, today we're going to be talking about English language paper 2 and the question 2. So you're going to need the extract, so the two sources, the inserts and the corresponding worksheet in your booklet, please. Alright then guys, what I'd like you to do here is to pause the video and read all through source A. As you're reading, all I need you to do is to highlight any details that tell us what the campsite is like. Okay, so we're looking at source A, the extract from The Tent, The Bucket and Me, in which Emma Kennedy describes her camping holidays in France in the 1970s. So pause here and highlight anything that you are learning about the campsite. So here you're going to read through source B. It's an extract from In the Wilderness, written in 1878 by the American writer Charles Dudley Warner. And he details that at this time some Americans were looking for adventure by camping in the wild. So that should give you quite a clear indicator that this is going to be a different type of campsite. So as you're reading, you just need to make sure that you're highlighting anything that tells us what the site is like. In your booklets then guys, you've got this table. I've started to, before we do any work on inferences, we just need to look at the details. So actually what is there? What is the campsite like? You can see from source A, I've just noted down that there's lots of facilities. There's a table tennis hut, there's a pool. Whereas in source B, there isn't any of those facilities. It feels very wild. There's no man-made facilities there at all. So I want you now to just go through anything that you've highlighted, anything that we've learned about those campsites. Can you jot those down in the table, please? So when we're looking at what an inference is, it literally just means a reasonable assumption. I'm going to take a look at the first image here, the little boy. He's sat on the ground, he's wearing a helmet, he's got a leg either side of his bike. Now this to me looks fairly obvious. He's fallen off his bike and he's upset. No one has explicitly told me that. What I've done is I've looked at the clues and I've started to gather reasonable ideas about what might have been happening here. I don't see any cuts, I don't see any blood, so I don't think he's actually hurt. I think this is a little boy who is shocked, maybe he's a little bit scared. Moving into the second picture there then, we've got a lady dressed for British summer. She doesn't have an umbrella. She looks to be absolutely surprised by the rain. She looks as though she's not gone out ready for this at all. So from this I can infer that there's a sudden downpour, something that wasn't expected. She's been caught out and she's on her way somewhere. She's taken her shoes off, so from that I can infer that her feet are probably hurting or her flip-flops are sliding around, and that this was a really unsuitable choice of clothing. Okay, up to you now. I want you to just make some inferences. That third picture, the gentleman there, the England supporters, how are they feeling? How do you know? What can you infer from that picture? Now for answering this question, you are going to need to use this phrase, from this I infer. Other words you might want to be using are from this I gather, from this I can tell, but we need to be using these explicitly. So from this I infer. If you've got note cards, I would jot this down, but just you are absolutely going to be needing to use this within your paragraph. Now you might have noticed when I was talking through the inferences in the slide before that I was using this phrase, from this I infer. It's really important that you do that because your examiner will be awarding marks from your inferences, so it needs to be explicit that you are not summarizing, you are giving your inferences with this question. Okay, so to write up this inference question then, we need to be using the comparative structure, the pedal structure. So we're going to think about source A first of all,
we're going to make a point about how the campsite was presented in source A. We're then going to back up that point with a piece of evidence, a short quote, and then we explain it. Now here with the development section, this is where you talk about the inferences. So this is where we can be using phrases like from this I infer, this suggests to me, from this I gather. We then provide a comparative phrase and we move to source B and repeat the same again.
So what you're going to need to do is take a look at what you've learned about the campsites. You've already filled in a table where you've jotted down details about the campsites. What you now need to do is to spend some time looking at what that actually tells you. So on the next two slides, I've just jotted down some quick ideas really that I got from some of the quotes. So the table tennis hut, once such an astonishment of riches, was now a bit battered around the edges. Now this tells me that the writer has already been there. They've been there on a previous holiday and they knew that there were lots of leisure activities that they could be doing and lots of really good facilities, an astonishment of riches. Now it probably is that they visited some time ago, because it implies that these facilities now are not very well taken care of in comparison to how they were. It also suggests that the site used to be proud of its investment. The guests were previously impressed, and it tells me that perhaps there hasn't been much time and energy spent in taking care of these facilities. Alternatively, it could mean that they're so popular that they're used all the time and lots of children have used them, and as a result of general wear and tear, they're just starting to show their age. So what I want you to do is to now go through both tables, so both source A and source B, and really just look, what is that quote suggesting? What am I gathering as a result of that information?